Welcome to Witness Wednesday here on the Walk Boldly with Jesus podcast. I'm your host, Katherine Duggan. However, each Wednesday, I will have a guest give their witness of how God is working in their lives. Hearing how God is working in other people's lives shows us how deeply He cares for each one of us individually. Listening to these experiences will help your faith grow. I am so blessed to be able to share these with you. Let's get started. This morning's witness is about my day last Saturday. I had the privilege of joining a group of young adults in the Boston area who belong to a ministry called Encounter Boston. This is different than the Encounter School of Ministry I attended. This ministry is a group of Catholic young adults that get together as a group on the third Saturday of the month. They meet at a church in Boston and they gather for Mass. Then they head downstairs to the church hall for breakfast and fellowship. After breakfast is over, they gather in groups. One group is for those who have been there before, and they meet and do formation. They learn a topic or something that will help them when they go out and minister. Last week, they talked about Mother Teresa, I believe. They also have a group for newcomers where they explain all about the ministry. They talk about what you should and shouldn't do while you're out there. They give you tips about what works and what doesn't. Then they show you a video about the group in Colorado that they designed their group after. This group is called Christ in the City. You should check out the video on their website. It's pretty cool. When you go to their website, the first thing you see is a quote from Mother Teresa that says, "Many people talk about the homeless, but few talk to them." Mother Teresa talks about something called the poverty of loneliness. The approach of Christ in the City, and also this Encounter Ministries in Boston, is healing through relationships. These two ministries spend time each week building relationships with the homeless on the streets. It's through seemingly small interactions, the disarming power of eye contact, a genuine smile, stopping by to say hello and learn someone's name, that the seeds of friendship take root and a journey of healing begins. There are lots of homeless ministries in Boston, and they're all a little different. I know 2 people from my class who go out on Saturday mornings in Boston and pray over people. They head to Mass Ave and other places where there's large homeless population, and they pray with them for healing and for conversion. They pray for an end to their addiction and whatever they need prayer for. There are also groups in Boston that bring the homeless clothing, food, and other material things they may need. Encounter's primary goal is to build a relationship with the homeless. They walk the same paths each week, so they really get to know the people on their path. They become friends with them, and then they pray for their friends during their own prayer time. After this group time, they meet up in the church again to break into small groups. They usually only have 2 to 3 people in a group, and they try to have at least one male and female in each group, as males and females both offer something unique to any situation. Before heading out, the priest will say a prayer. Then everyone heads out to their specific section of Boston to minister for about 2 hours or so. This weekend was my first weekend joining this group, mostly because I didn't know about it before, but also because it's for young adults, and unfortunately, I'm no longer considered a young adult. However, I have had the privilege of spending time with 6 of the ladies in this group lately, and so I wanted to see what it is they do for ministry. They invited me to join in this week. I was in a group of 4 going out for ministry. We decided to walk to our area. As we walked, we talked and got to know each other a bit. Once we got to the area, we decided to split up into groups of 2, as larger groups can be intimidating, and also we can reach more people if we split up. I was with a man named Duke. He had been doing ministry with this group for a few years now, I think. He was great at initiating conversations with those we met. I was nervous because I hadn't done this before, and also I'm not always great at starting conversations or keeping them going. However, it was a great day. We first met this man who Duke had seen around a lot. We talked to him for a while, and he seemed very happy to have the company and to have someone to listen to him. He said he had a goal each day for what he would spend the money that he made on. This way, he doesn't waste it on cigarettes. I thought this was a great idea. Saturday, he was trying to make enough money to buy a cheap watch, as he doesn't have a phone anymore, and it's really hard to get through the day without knowing what time it is, especially if he has to be back at the shelter at a certain time. What I loved about the first man we talked to is that he seemed so happy. He talked about how he knew God was always looking out for him. He was thankful to God for all he had. He was grateful that he wasn't sleeping on the streets and that he had a shelter to stay in. He said he was sleeping on the floor of the shelter, but that was better than the streets, so he was grateful. He said he was waiting for disability to go through so he could maybe get an apartment of his own. He seemed very optimistic, and that was heartwarming to see. He had hope, and that is always nice. Next, we talked to a woman who seemed really sad. She didn't really want to talk to us until she found out we were not social workers. Then she opened up a bit. She had a really hard childhood, and that was hard to hear. She had unspeakable things happen to her when she was really young, and that was sad for her to talk about. She also seemed a bit confused, as she said a lot of things that didn't make sense. We stayed with her for a while, but conversations were hard as she didn't really answer any questions and she repeated the same things over and over again. We left after a bit. I think she liked that we stopped and said hi, though. I think she liked having someone listen to her. The next guy we walked by, we almost didn't stop. I'm not sure why. I think it was probably because he was smoking a cigarette, and he didn't really look homeless, although you never really know who is homeless. Not all homeless people look a certain way. I'm not sure why we didn't seem to be stopping. I do know that when we looked at him, he gave us a big smile, and we knew we should stop and say hi. He was very friendly and talkative. He told us how he used to be homeless, and he used to sleep on the street corner right next to where we were. He said he had a good job and was doing well, but then his drinking took over and he lost everything. He was pretty sick from living on the streets. He had to have his toes amputated because he had diabetes. He said it got so bad he could barely walk. He had a walker, and if he walked more than a few feet, he would be winded. He had serious health issues, and one day, it all got to be too much for him. He said he got down on his knees and he cried out to the Lord for help. And the Lord helped him. He went into rehab and gave up all drinking and substance use. The only thing he does now that he doesn't like is smoking. He said he knows the Lord will help him give that up one day also. He got a social worker who was able to find him an apartment within 3 months. Previously, he had been on the list for a really long time, but then he said he was too busy with alcohol to go in and check where he was on the list or do the things they needed him to do. He is also taking classes at some center in Boston right now. They give him a stipend for transportation so he can get to and from the center. He's learning how to use computers and how to troubleshoot if they aren't working. It's a 12-week class, and after that, he will enter an intensive outpatient therapy class where they will reinforce what he learned in rehab and help him develop more strategies to stay sober. He said he's met friends through the center and through rehab who are also trying to stay sober. If any of them are having a rough day or thinking about having a drink, they'll call each other and go out for coffee and encourage each other on their journey. It was so beautiful talking to this man. He also said as soon as he went into rehab, he got on Facebook and reached out to his family, and they were all happy for him that he was in rehab. They were super supportive and happy to hear from him. They were willing to help him in any way they could. He was calling his older brother that day to see if they could go have coffee together, as his brother works in the city. This man said he gets up each morning and stands on the street he used to sleep on, and he talks with the people who walk by or the homeless on the street. He said he does that for the Lord. He wants to thank God for all he has done for him. He also does it so he can be an example for those on the street who are still addicted to drugs and alcohol. He can be an example for what can happen when you call out to the Lord. He is living proof that things can change, that help is available when you're ready, and that life can get better. He said he stands on the street for several hours, and then he goes to Mass and confession. Then he'll make his way home. He said he is so grateful for his life. He's grateful for God helping him. He's grateful for his apartment, which used to be not so great, but then they started fixing it up. putting rules in place so people can't be drinking in the hallways and such. And they hired security. He feels safe and secure there now. He has contact with his family again. He is so happy, and you can see it just by looking at him. His smile was so big, you could see that he was full of the Holy Spirit. Then, as we were talking to him, there was another man that came by. We talked to him for a bit. He didn't seem too interested in talking with us, but he really liked talking to the guy that we were talking to. The guy who came up to us gave the man we were talking to a pair of brand new socks. It was nice to see how they cared for each other. After everyone was done with the ministry time, then they make their way back to the church. They spend a few minutes in the church individually praying. When I was in there, I thanked God for all the encounters I had that day. I prayed for each one of my new friends, and I asked the Lord what was one thing He wanted me to learn from this experience. This is what I felt like the Lord told me. Remember that we can learn just as much from our friends as they can from us. The people you met today are my beautiful children whom I love dearly. I am doing good work in them too. But sometimes it takes longer because they are resistant and they are blocking me. That doesn't mean I can't work, but it does sometimes take longer. I will use all they've been through for their own good. Thank you for your prayers for them. You may be the only one praying for them, so don't forget them. I don't want to see a single one of my children perish. I am grateful for you going out with Encounter today. After they pray in the church, they go downstairs and eat lunch with their group and debrief about their experience for that day. While we were debriefing, God gave one of the ministers in our group a beautiful gift. When we were talking about the man who went into rehab and was doing so great, one of the women in our group was so happy. She had prayed with this man the night before he went to rehab, and she hadn't seen him since. She had never stopped praying for him and wondering what happened to him. She was overjoyed and so grateful when she heard how well he was doing. The reason I said God gave her a gift is because it's not often that you get to see the fruit of your prayers. Often, it's our job to plant the seed or say the prayer, but we don't get to see the seed bloom or the prayers bear fruit. She had prayed with this man. They had formed a special bond, and to hear the Lord not only saved him from his addiction, but saved him from living on the streets and reunited him with his family in some way was amazing. She wanted to run back out and talk with him, but unfortunately, she wasn't able to. However, I know she'll be looking for him the next time she goes out. This provided encouragement for the whole group too. God is hearing their prayers. Their work is not in vain, and they are making a difference. Next, they get in a big circle, and each group talks about the one way their life was impacted by the people they met that day. Then, they end with a Thanksgiving rosary. This is not where they say the rosary. It's where they say one thing they are faithful for on each Hail Mary bead. It was beautiful to hear what everyone was thankful for. I am so grateful I got to be part of their ministry for a day. The third Saturday is when the whole group of young adults goes out and ministers. However, several of them go out a couple times a week in small groups. I know the ladies I've been fortunate enough to spend time with actually live in community with each other so they can help each other grow closer to the Lord. And they also go out a few times a week for ministry. It is amazing to spend time with young adults who are so in love with Christ and who give their time to make sure the homeless have someone to talk to. They do extraordinary work, and if you are a young adult listening to this, reach out to me and I can tell you how you can get involved. If you're not a young adult and you're interested in homeless ministry, I'm sure there is something that would fit your needs too. Thank you very much for all those involved in Encounter Boston, for letting me join you, and for all the amazing work you do. You are making a difference in the lives of all you encounter. We have all seen God working in our lives. However, we might not all be aware it is God who is working in our lives. This is why it's so important we start talking about it more. The more we share our experiences, the more people understand how God works and how much He truly loves us. If you would be willing to share any of your experiences of how God has worked in your life, please email me at Catherine@findingtruenorthcoaching.com. CATHERINE at findingtruenorthcoaching.com. Or you can click on the link below. It won't take up much of your time, and your story could be just the story someone needs to hear today. Please prayerfully consider sharing your story. Everyone has one, and the world needs to hear them. I look forward to spending time with you again tomorrow. Remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I. I will have another witness for you next Wednesday. Have a blessed day.